Hello my lovely viewer, I am back once again with a drama, romance film from 1997 titled Good Will Hunting. Watch the full video to find out the interesting part and take care. As a disclaimer, this video includes my own analysis, commentary, and it's not a substitute of the full movie. Click the link below to watch, buy or rent the movie. Will Hunting is reading a book at home. Chucky Sullivan, a good friend, comes to his house to pick him up. Will follows him, and the two of them get into the car and drive away. Professor Gerald at MIT assigns his students a theorem to solve by the end of the semester, with the stipulation that whoever solves it will have their achievement published in the MIT newspaper. Will works at MIT as a janitor. The given theorem is written on a hallway bulletin board. Will is quietly mopping the floor. He glances at the questions put on the board with surprise after the kids have left. Will and Chucky go to a bar. Despite his good mood, Will decides to leave early. He returns home and works on the theorem he saw earlier that day. He cleans the next day while solving the theorem on the board in the corridor. Will and Chucky are playing baseball, and Will continues hitting Chucky while whining that he is crowding the plate. Will seems to agree when Chucky mentions going to a Harvard pub the next week. Gerald is attending an MIT alumni reunion. His classmates approach him and inquire about the theorem solver. He is shocked to find the solution printed on the board. He asks various students if they have figured it out, but no one appears to have. Will, Chucky, Morgan, and Billy are going to see a baseball game. Will recognizes one of the attendees as the bully from his youth. They eventually go to get some food. They witness Will's bully behaving badly once more while driving. The group picks a fight with him, and the cops arrive and arrest Will. Gerald walks into his class and notices an unusually large number of students. Everyone wants to know who solved the theorem. He requests that the mysterious person disclose themselves, but no one responds. Following that, Will is working on a question on the board when Gerald notices him. He informs him flat out that he can't do any graffiti over there. Will quickly exits the room. Gerald subsequently realizes Will is a genius after looking at the board. Will and his friends go to the Harvard pub as scheduled. Morgan teases him for being sacked from his janitorial job. Chucky has an affair with two Harvard students, claiming to have taken a history class with one of them. When a man named Clark arrives, he begins to taunt Chucky by demonstrating his historical expertise. He dismisses him since he is unfamiliar with the issue. Will interrupts the talk, outsmarting Clark and chastising him for plagiarizing his historical observations and being unoriginal. Clark feels ashamed and tries to retaliate with insults, but Will handles the situation properly and Clark backs off. Skylar, one of the females Chucky was flirting with, later comes up to Will and talks to him. She expresses her interest in him by giving him her phone number, and they plan to meet up at some point. Gerald looks for Will at the buildings and grounds office. He is informed that he did not arrive at work today. Since Will received his job through him, they might call his parole officer. Will is in court, defending himself against charges of assaulting a cop. According to the judge, he has a history of misbehavior. He also recounts Will being in many foster homes, 3 of which he was removed from due to serious physical abuse. His accusations have not been dropped, and his bail has been set at $50,000. After that, he phones Skylar from jail to see how she's doing and asks if they can get together soon. He is introduced to Gerald, who promises to assist him on 2 conditions. He will first agree to work harder on math, and then he will see a therapist. Will doesn't take the role of therapist seriously. Will and Gerald work on math together, and they appear to be having a nice time. He sees a variety of therapists and finds it difficult to open up. He continues to dismiss them and mock them. He doesn't pay attention to anyone. Finally, Gerald arranges for Will to meet with Dr. Sean Maguire, a former roommate who is now a therapist. Gerald goes to work to meet Sean. They discuss about how they haven't seen each other since Sean's wife died. Will, on the other hand, informs Chucky of his probation and counseling agreement. Gerald persuades Sean to advise Will, claiming that he is extraordinarily bright and deserving of a chance. He also states that they are both from the South End of Boston. When Will meets Sean, he acts casually. They talk about books and exercise. He's arrogant. He begins to discuss an artwork in Sean's office. He mocks his painting and ends up making assumptions and making nasty remarks about Sean's wife, to which he responds quite seriously, reminding Will of where the lines are drawn. After Will has left, Gerald tells Sean that he understands if he doesn't want to see Will again, but that he is looking forward to seeing him next week. Sean is awake all night, lost in his thoughts. Will and Skylar spend time together, and she talks about her education and elite upbringing, as well as her plans to study medicine at Stanford following graduation. They have a fantastic time and enjoy each other's company. Will meets Sean on time, and Sean takes him outdoors to the lake for a visit. He tells him he remained up all night thinking about Will's comments on his painting and realized he's just a kid who has no idea what he's talking about. Will has never left Boston, as far as he knows. If Sean asked him about art, he could talk about creative literature for hours, but he couldn't describe what the Sistine Chapel smelt like or how gorgeous its ceiling was in person. If he questioned him about women, he could talk about them for hours, but he'd never experienced what it was like to be truly content in someone's company. If you questioned him about war, he would have no idea what it's like to be in one. He hasn't experienced true love or loss, therefore he doesn't know what it's like. Sean discloses his wife's death from cancer during their conversation. Will isn't a confident guy in his eyes, he's just a scared youngster attempting to play strong. By glancing at a painting, he deduced everything about Sean's life. Will, he knows, was an orphan and went through a difficult time. Can his life be comprehended by reading Oliver Twist? He can only comprehend him if he's prepared to open up and share his experiences, but Will appears to be too afraid to do so. Sean leaves, and Will gradually realizes what has happened. Will calls Skylar from a payphone that night while it's raining outside. She answers, but he doesn't say anything and hangs up. Will meets with Sean for their therapy session. He remains silent the entire time and departs after the session is finished. Sean recognizes that he will only speak if he wants to. Will is focused on solving mathematical issues and he comes up with answers that outweigh a polished and learned man. Gerald is awestruck. When Will finally starts chatting to Sean, he makes his first joke. He brags about how he went on a date and didn't bother to check in with Skylar afterward. Sean refers to him as a newbie. Will argues that he understands what he's doing, claiming that she's unlike any other woman he's ever met. Sean believes he should call her, but he doesn't want to damage what they have now by getting to know her better because that would make their relationship drab and boring. Sean mocks him for his attitude, claiming that as a result of his actions, he will go through life never truly knowing someone, and mentioning his own wife's peculiar behaviors that only he was aware of. They share a laugh. He claims that it is these insignificant memories that matter, and that people pick who they accept into their lives. He tells Will that he isn't perfect, and neither is Skylar. All they have to do now is figure out if they are perfect for one another, and the only way to do that is to try. Will inquires as to whether he has considered remarrying, but he demonstrates his devotion to his deceased wife. Wood turns Sean's own statement against him, claiming that he will never truly know anyone in his life. Will pays Skylar a visit and apologizes for abandoning her. Skylar says she is busy with university work and has to assign the proton spectrum to ibogamine when he asks if they can go out again. Will promptly goes and returns with the answer to her homework, stating that he couldn't wait to spend time with her afterwards. They go to a dog race together, and Skylar's dog also competes. Her dog comes out on top. She discovers that Will grew up in South Boston and inquires about his experiences there as well as his brothers. Skylar expresses her want to meet his 12 big brothers, which he claims he has. Will asks Sean if he regrets meeting his wife, and he denies it, noting that everything has advantages and disadvantages. Will inquires as to when he realized she was the one for him, and he responds with a date, demonstrating his incredible memory. They ran into each other during a baseball game. Sean mentions the game's highlights, but then admits that he wasn't even there to see the entire game because he was with his future bride. Will makes fun of him for missing such an important event. He has no regrets about the time he spent with his wife over the course of his life. Will and Skylar spend quality time together and have an intimate relationship. She inquires as to when he will tour her around his home and introduce her to his friends and brothers. He promises to take her to see them. Chucky, Billy, and Morgan meet up with Will and Skylar. They joke together and tell each other humorous anecdotes, but Will is still hesitant to share Skylar his personal life. Chucky mocks him, stating that if she saw his living quarters, he'd be kicked out like a bad habit. Will is able to persuade him to hand over the keys to his car. Gerald meets with Sean to discuss Will. He thinks he should talk to him about his future because he's been getting a lot of employment offers that are a good match for Will's abilities. Sean believes Will isn't quite ready yet. As a quarrel occurs, the conversation becomes heated. Will's parents want him to figure out what he wants to do with his life on his own, while Sean encourages him to study mathematics. He claims he sent Will to a job interview. Will sends Chucky to the job interview in his place. Chucky has a relaxed demeanor that perplexes the rest of the staff. Skylar wonders if Will has a photographic memory, given his intelligence and how easy something as complex as organic chemistry is for him, despite the fact that he is only studying it for fun. He claims that he is just naturally gifted in the classroom. They develop feelings for each other. Skylar later expresses her desire for Will to join her in California. When Will expresses his fear of abandonment, the situation becomes more serious. He screams at her and tells her about his tragic past, which enrages her. He's an abused orphan who lied about having brothers. Skylar tells him she loves him, but he tells her he doesn't. This breaks her heart. Will is reminded by Tom that he should be grateful to Gerald for working so hard with him. When Gerald inquires about the employment encounter, the situation becomes tense. Will claims he had a date and instead sent Chucky. Gerald is not happy. Will claims that he does not wish to spend his life explaining things to others. Gerald mentions that he might be able to express his gratitude. Will boasts about how simple the proof is for him, while Gerald struggles. He burns the proof while Gerald bemoans the fact that Will has more potential than he has. He laments the fact that he threw it all away. Will attends a job interview at the National Security Agency and gives a funny and extensive explanation of why he would not work for them. Will denies having a soulmate when Sean asks if he has one. Will gets defensive throughout their conversation about how low-paying occupations aren't considered noble. Sean recognizes that they are honorable people. Sean tries to get more information by asking Will what he really wants to do with his life. But Will becomes impractical once more, and Sean simply asks him to leave since he won't put up with his antics anymore. Will calls Skylar to check in before she departs, and it's a bittersweet call. He doesn't say anything when she tells him she loves him. While Skylar takes her flight to California, he waits alone on a bench. Gerald is annoyed that Will failed to show up for his session with Sean. Will and Chucky are working on a building project. He makes Will see how he is wasting all of his talent and being ungrateful for the intellect he has been given. Sean and Gerald have a heated fight over Will, with Sean defending him by claiming that he has lived his entire life in fear of abandonment and is emotionally traumatized. Sean is irritated because Gerald only wants him to study maths. They scream angrily at one another and resent each other for previous mistakes. Will enters the room, and Gerald exits. Sean mentions submitting his case to a court on appeal. They discuss their personal experiences with physical violence. He informs him that he and Skylar are no longer together. Sean convinces Will that he is not to blame for everything that has occurred to him. He cries uncontrollably and hugs Sean. Will sits alone on the bus, pondering his thoughts. Sean and Will get together for their last meeting. Will mentions his new work, which he obtained as a result of a Gerald-provided chance. They hug when Sean gives him his phone number. Will celebrates his 21st birthday by showing off the automobile that his friends made for him. They enjoy one another's company. Gerald pays a visit to Sean, and they both make amends and put their differences aside. Will drives over to Sean's house and leaves a letter for him. Will is nowhere to be found when Chucky and the guys go to pick him up. Chucky is relieved to have finally ventured outside of his comfort zone. Sean reads the note and learns that he quit his work to visit Skylar, which makes him pleased. Will embarks on a life-affirming journey to California in order to re-establish his relationship with Skylar and take a plunge into an unknown future. The movie ends here. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like and comment to support the channel. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.